Hello, everybody. My name is Nikki. Welcome back to the New Vegas Talk Show, and we got an episode today. I had to chill out. I'm holding my microphone. We're gonna see how this works. If I peak, if I'm too loud, we're gonna find out. I had to mentally prepare for today because we're gonna talk about everyone's favorite topic, love. This is gonna be fun because I don't think I've ever opened up like this on my YouTube channel. Period. So I've been sitting here for the past 30 minutes, kind of thinking about like and brainstorming. Okay, what am I gonna talk about? What are we gonna say? These are like I get a lot of these ideas from like shower thoughts and shit. Like where I'm like, okay, what would be a good thing to talk about? What would I want to listen to? So, truth be told, I might not ever want to listen to this episode back because sometimes when I hear myself open up like this, I'm like, shit, it's a little too deep for right now. Let's go back to playing Donkey Kong, right? But is what it is. Anyway, welcome back to the New Vegas Talk Show. I rendered my video in 720p, so I didn't have to wait as long. But for you, it is in a beautiful 1440. So the line between love and confusion. That's what I decided to title this. ChatGPT, as always, our helpful assistant, gave me that title. I was originally going to call this situationships versus relationships because I was thinking about both the other day, and I was like, damn, they're more common nowadays, especially because we're like in the Gen Z times where traditional love is it's treated very differently. But love is like it's very packaged and sold nowadays, where like it's more of a commodity and an expectation that people have that you're going to get married and have kids because like your mom wants a grandkid and everything. There's a lot of pressure on people. Number one, I don't think that's right. I get why people do it. It's what's been keeping society flowing for as long as it's been flowing. At the same time, it puts pressure to live your life the way other people want you to, like your dad wants you to, or your mom because they want grandkids, right? Or your friends because they're all getting, and this happens in late 20s a lot, where we're all getting married, right? So I'm going to my friend's wedding and now I'm feeling alone. And you find, especially in the US, I think the divorce rate is like 60%. It's so high. And you got to sit back and wonder, why are people splitting up at such a high rate? And more importantly, because we're going to get deep this episode. Honestly, I only recorded 22 minutes of footage. I might have to just ramble on past the things. We have a lot to cover. I grew up in what's the word? A contentious household, right? My mom and dad got divorced when I was... Gosh, I don't even remember. I had to have been like 8 or 9. I wasn't very old, but I do remember from my young childhood, my mom and dad screaming at each other all the time. And that was not fun. It was bad. And then what was even worse is that when they got divorced, it was always mom said this about dad. Dad said this about mom. And they were all like, they were fighting about a lot of shit and it was bad. I didn't know who to side with. And it was like, you shouldn't, first of all, if you have kids, never put your kids in that situation. I can speak from experience. It is fucking awful. Never put your kids in the middle. Never speak badly about the other parent. Cause again, you're the kid, you love both of them. I'm still watching the footage here, by the way. And I got no comment. This was the thing glitched out again. Never put your kids in the middle. It is awful. Unfortunately, me and my brothers and my sister, we were all very much put in the middle of that. And it was like we were hearing all the manipulation from the adults about what to think about the other parent, what to think about other adults in our lives. And we as children were just trying to like live our lives, go to school. I remember in my teenage years, I was in like middle school. I was failing a lot of classes, and my teachers looked at me and they were just like, oh, okay, he doesn't care. And I realized looking back now that it was because I was happier at school over being at home because I didn't have to deal with all the fighting and everything. Because when my mom and dad split, there was a weird dynamic where my mom was more she was more overprotective and a little bit controlling as I was a teenager, where she and I had fights about little stuff, and it created a very hostile environment when I was little. or not little, this was like teenage years. So this was as I started to question things and be like, well, why are we doing this that way? And my mom was like, because I said so. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, you're doing it wrong. And as a 13-year-old, I was snarky. I didn't know any better. And there were a lot of other conditions, but we're sticking to the topic of love here, right? My dad was the opposite. He was very hands off. When I was at my dad's house, he just was not really present at all. Which my dad comes around in moments, especially as an adult. I have a better relationship with both of them now because we just avoid certain things. And my dad, I think he comes around when he needs to, which is awesome. It's great. And you know what? I don't want to take either of my parents for granted. I love them both. They were both present in my lives. Whereas a lot of people don't have present parents in their lives, which is great. Anyway, long story short, the more I got to know about my parents, and especially when they were younger, I asked them both this. I was like, Mom, or when I was talking to my dad, I was like, Dad, why the fuck did you two get together? You guys were clearly terrible for each other. And they're like, well, we were young, or well, it wasn't all bad, right? And I was like, yeah, well, like, you guys settled hard. And I think even like if I ask both of my parents, I'm pretty sure they could admit that they were terrible for each other. And they were together for like 14 years. So I always looked at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, well, I know what I don't want. I don't want the relationship my mom and dad had. Like, that's really bad. I think it's really good that at 21 I can reflect at that and be like, okay, my mom and dad had an awful relationship. I need to figure out how to not have an awful relationship. This is where we're going to transition to my experience because, oh boy, have I had some bad relationships. I'm going to leave everyone in these stories nameless because I know that both of the people that because I've had a situationship, I've had a relationship, and I've had a lot of loose dates I've done in California. So keep in mind, I'm 21. I didn't start dating till I was 18 or getting involved in any of this till I was 18. Well, I'm going to be 22 pretty soon. So it's almost 4 years of this. So you know what? Considering my lack, I'm okay with it because I'm not trying to whore myself out. So anyway, so my first like experience with like, okay, getting into a relationship, well, it was a situationship. That was the way it started, where it was like, it wasn't official, but it was like not really, it was murky. Anyway, I'm 17. I'm in school. She's also 17. We go to school together. And I've known her since she was like 14, 15, and we've always been close friends. But at 17, 18, I decided to myself, you know what, I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm like, you know what, fuck it. We're going to go for it. Because her and I start talking a lot more. We become like, you know, better friends. I'm like, this is great, right? Keep in mind, I will preface this by saying that I was there were a lot of things I didn't do right, and I've grown a lot since then. So yeah, this is, we're getting to some cringe territory here, right? So anyway, I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna shoot my shot, right? And so after a lot of courage, I tell her, and you know, she's like, okay, yeah, like, okay, like, sure, we can go on a date. And then she's like, you know what, second thought, I don't want to get into a relationship. And my initial response was like, that's fine, sure. But deep down, I'm like, I'll wait. I was like, there's still a chance, right? Which is totally a backwards way of thinking. You don't want to do that at all. But I had already once I admitted to myself that I had feelings, I was like, okay, we're going in, right? And I like head over heels. I was like crazy about it, right? So, I graduate. She's a year younger than me. She's still in school, right? And I have a lot of my own issues internally that I'm dealing with. She has her issues. Long story short, it crosses that line where it's like a situationship, and then I figure out she's still seeing her ex, but it's not really her. It's like she was still dating him, but she kind of was on and off with him, and I was like the other guy. And I was like, well, shit, that feels awful. But I realized looking back now that it was like, if she's listening, I'm sorry. I fucked up a lot back then. I realized that she told me that she didn't want anything from like the beginning. And I think we were both not mature enough to follow through on that sort of thing. Cause I think we did like each other, but it was like, she knew that it wasn't good enough, that it shouldn't have been. I think I I won't even say I think I knew. I didn't know that I shouldn't have gone for it. I like when somebody tells you that, that's a huge flag. And there were a lot of other problems that ensued with like self-esteem and shit like that. And that took a massive toll on me. And then I lost my self-esteem too. It was terrible, right? So long story short, I cut things off. I was like, because I told her, hey, me, him, or nobody. Like, I just like, I need this to end. And then nobody really made any decisions. And especially me, again, I wasn't the most mature about the whole situation. I had a lot of growing and learning to do. So she, goes on. We both keep doing our thing, and then eventually I sit down with her in a car, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. This is driving me crazy, and I cried. It was really tough. I think it was harder for me than her at the time, but again, I'm not her. It might have been really. It probably was. And I went down kicking and screaming. Metaphorically, I was kicking and screaming. I called her. I called the other guy that she was talking to, which is, by the way, it was not a good move in hindsight. Again, if she's listening to this, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. But I called the other guy. She was, she was seeing, and I was like, hey, this is fucked up. And I kind of like was talking with him to cope, but I realized, dude, I should have just walked away cold turkey, because she wasn't good for me. I don't think I was good for her, because I wasn't mature enough at the time. I was 18. I didn't know any better. And then I walked away, and I hated her for a long time. Like right under hate. I always made it a point never to hate anybody. But man, if there was a hairline below that, if there was like a millimeter below hatred, that's what it was. I was like, fuck her. I called her she-devil for a long time because she did a lot of fucked up shit, right? And I was like, okay, you're awful. But I can't play victim, because I realized that I'm a big boy. I am a big boy that makes my own decisions, and I had the right and the ability to walk away at any time, right? So this is where this kind of goes into the title, where this is the line between love and confusion. I was very confused. And I thought it would be like this picture perfect fairy tale, and it ended up not being that way. It took me a long time to get over that, because I was mad at her for a long time. I didn't talk to her, but I thought about her every day. It was really tough. And I want to say for like a year straight, I kind of held that, and it was a weight for sure. I was like, I felt empty for a while, but like for 3 months later, I got into my first like actual relationship with my now ex. That was a whole other mess. It was so bad, but we'll touch on that in a couple minutes. So I finally hit the right. Damn, this is just a story time. This isn't even. I promise. We'll relate it back to an actual point later on. Again, I might have to go over the runtime of this video that I'm watching. Dude, I'm not even commenting on this footage at all, which is crazy. We're going deep. I told you this episode was deep. So a year goes by, and I'm still thinking about it. I'm still upset about it. I'm getting over it. I'm getting more mature day by day, but I start taking trips up to Vermont, because I know people that are in Vermont, and they run a Buddhist center. And in this time in my life, I was so lost, because I was dating somebody who I didn't want to be with. We'll get more on that later. I was still trying to make sense of my situationship, and I knew that I just felt like something was wrong, something was broken. So I traveled up from New York to Vermont, and I started studying at a Buddhist temple. That opened up something really special in my life, because I was sitting at the temple on like my third visit up there. It was near Montpelier. It wasn't too far from Montpelier, so it was a decent drive from Long Island. And I was sitting in the temple, and I had this crystal next to me. It was like, I'm a crystal believer. I'm an energy guy. Fucking sue me. And all of a sudden, I just hear like this wave of calm wash over me while I'm meditating. And I get these 3 words that pop into my head, and I just say, I forgive you. That's what popped. I forgive you. Man, that was the most freeing moment of my life, because I knew at that time she didn't do anything that warranted forgiveness. She, like, again, I hadn't talked to her for a year. And in my mind at that time, because again, I played victim for a while, she fucked me over in my mind. Granted, she was not an angel by any means. And honestly, looking back now, I don't I'm proud to say I'm really far removed from it now, and I really don't think about it too much. But I was like, I forgive you. I know you don't. I don't think you did anything that warrants forgiveness, but forgiveness isn't for you. It's for me, and I don't deserve to be holding on to this anymore. So when I said that to myself and I meant it, like, hey, I forgive you, dude, my life changed. And I think, what was it? A few months later, I went to return something of hers to her because I still had something of hers. It was so fucking silly how I did it. I put on a Spider-Man mask. She lived 2 blocks away from me. I walked to her house and I gave it to her in a box and I pretended to be fucking Peter Parker. It was so funny. I did that more for shits and gigs. Again, I was still trying to get over it. I wasn't fully over it till after I moved to California. Then I was like, okay. And you know what? Something about your first like person that you're in love with, that'll always stick with you. And I can confidently say now that I'm like 4 years removed from it, I think it'll always be a part of me because it was such a defining moment. And it changed me. So if you're listening to this, no, I'm not in love with you anymore, but that will always be a part of who I am. I learned so much from it. So anyway, I returned something from to her. She thanked me. I unblocked her, so if she wanted to thank me, she could. She did, and I think we set out to meet up. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I think I did it for closure. That's the real reason, because I was like, okay, I need closure because I'm still thinking about this. And dude, I got closure in the weirdest fucking way possible. So this was after the Buddhist retreat, so I was like, dude, I feel on top of the world because I actually don't want anything from you. It was weird. But it was awesome. It was really freeing. So we go on a walk. I meet up with her, and for the most distinct, you know how you remember those little things about big impactful moments in your life? This was one of the little things I remembered. I walked up to her house and she walked up to me and she was wearing the same perfume that God, this is so fucking, I can't believe we're going down this road. I can't believe I'm posting this to YouTube. This is wild. Y'all don't sue me. I'm being very vulnerable right now. Okay. And smells are a very distinct trigger for humans. And for me, everything came flooding back. And I was like, oh, fuck, I need to stay away from this girl. I was like, God damn, this is bad. So my guard was up. And the first thing that struck me was that I had done so much progress and made so much change in the year and a half or however long it had been since I had last seen her. And I was like, dude, she's in the same situation she was a year ago. And here I am. I'm so removed from it. I've done so much for my life. And she's still in the same boat. Granted, this was fucking 2-3 years ago, so she's might be in a completely different place now. I really don't care. I don't know. But this is what I thought at the time. I was like, she's in the same boat. Man, am I so happy I walked away from this because I was able to grow and get better, and she didn't. And it was a bleak reminder of what I left behind and how much I grew. It was my goalpost. Right, I was where I was at, and that was where I started, and I was like, "Fuck, wow, I'm really proud of myself." Granted, I wished her all the best. I still do wish her all the best. I don't hate any of these people I'm talking about, by the way. All the best. Again, if she's listening, all the best to you. So yeah, and then we walked away from it, and I was thinking to myself, "Damn, that really didn't help." So here's the thing about closure, right? When you meet your ex or when you talk with your ex, you get coffee or something, and you're like, man, I could really use this closure. It doesn't do what you think it's going to do. You think everything's going to be peachy because you talked with them. I think when you do that, a little part of you is hoping or yearning that you'll get back together or that everything will be okay just like it used to. And I realized the second I saw her that is never going to happen, and I can never let that happen because I would be going backwards if I did. So yeah, I walked away from that. I moved to California like 2 months later, and that was it. And I look back at that now, and this was where the line between love and confusion is, right? So what is love? So to give you context on, because my video is the footage that I'm watching is coming to an end. I'm gonna throw more footage on here because I'm not interrupting this. We're going deep, right? So I got into my first actual relationship, and because of that first one that I was in, I think me and my ex both used, because she had her own problems. She had a lot of problems. She was a again, no hate towards her. She was a Reddit dweller, like one of those people that like sits on Reddit, forms their opinions about what they hear on people online, and then just is angry at the world. And that was awful to be around. It was awful to be with. But at the same time, I also was coping, and I was not mature either. We had terrible communication, and part of that was because I was not considerate and aware of what made her tick, of what she needed. And I was more of a coping crutch because I think we were using each other as a coping crutch. So if girl number 2 is listening to this, I'm sorry, because I fucked up there too. And she reached out to me, like, I think, what was it, a year after I broke up with her? Because I was with her on and off for like a year. And she was like, you're actually like the most awful human being to live. And she sent me a whole fucking thing about how awful I am. And I fell for the bait, and I responded. And I was like, and then she sent a whole thing back. And then I realized, you know what, dude, like, yeah, I 100% fucked up in my relationship with her. Like, so that's the first step towards growth, by the way, in human development. Admit where you fucked up. Like, even if somebody fucked you over and they like did more wrong to you in your mind, because again, everything's perception, admit where you fucked up. And in both of my situationship and my relationship, I fucked up. I fucked up. There were a lot of shit I fucked up on, and that's okay. That's part of being human, and we learn from that. You don't go through life without fucking up. And people have this weird standard nowadays where they want you to do that. They want you to just, not fuck up. They want you to, they have this ideal of what people should be and what they should do. And when they fuck up, we want to cancel them. The fucking cancel culture. It's awful. It's terrible. So with that, this is where the line between love and confusion comes in. Because I was with her to cope. I tried breaking up with her for like 6 months, but I was on and off because I never set any hard boundaries, which is a lesson I had to learn about boundaries. Oh boy, boundaries are a whole different topic. But so I learned that love is about you, not them. Let me repeat. Love is about you, not anybody else. And I think when people realize that, they can start nurturing healthier relationships. I'll explain what I mean. So when I came out to California, especially because part of the reason I left was to leave my ex, it was to get a fresh start and to remove all of my bad influences from New York. I made a pact to myself. I was like, Nick, you are not going to date anybody. Nick, you have a habit of attracting girls that are terrible for you. We're done with that. Also, so is this footage apparently. So we're going to swap it to footage I'll record post-recording. I realized they were terrible for me. Awful. And I needed to be around people that were going to help me get what I wanted out of life. And first, I had to discover what I wanted out of life. like, Nikki, what do you want, right? So I sat and I wondered for a bit. I'll be completely honest. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I have it 100% figured out. I will say I have it a lot more figured out than I did before. But that's okay, right? I learned that it's okay to take your time with figuring out life, because we're all pressured to go into college and to school and to figure it out ASAP. And that's just not how life works. There's no finite plan. I know somebody who at fucking 38 years old decided to change their career. They did something for 15 years and they worked at Cisco for 15 years. And then they changed their career and now they're in a whole different industry. You don't have to stick with something that makes you unhappy. So truth be told, it's the same with love. And with your partner that you pick, it is the most important decision you will make in your life, because that person, and I've done a lot of research and watching videos and educating myself on marriage. Marriage is not treated as seriously as it should be. It's where you are no longer an individual. You are now one with your partner. And you need to decide if your partner is somebody that you want to be your other half. That's tough, because a lot of the time we settle, like my mom and dad did. They settled. They thought they loved each other. Well, maybe they did. I don't know. I'm not in their heads. They thought they were good for each other. They thought, yeah, we love each other. Let's start a family with each other. And they ended up being horrible for each other. Now, granted, I'm happy it happened because I wouldn't exist if it didn't happen. So when I moved out to California, I made a pact to myself. I'm like, I'm not going to be boyfriend, girlfriend with anybody. I need to figure me out first. And I am very proud to admit, ever since I moved from New York to California in 2023, even here in Vegas, I have not been in a relationship. So happy about that. And we as a society glorify relationships so much. We want to be in them. We look at people that have them. We like, it's kind of like a status thing. And it shouldn't be, dude. Like, that's so fucked. That's why we have a 60% divorce rate, because people get with each other because they want security and they want status, and not because this person is going to actually help them be their best self. And we like to think and fool ourselves that this person is. We hear all this inspirational shit. There's a difference between having knowledge and understanding knowledge. Very different. If we understand that we need someone to be our best for our other half, but we don't even know what we are, how the fuck are we going to find our other half? So we have this knowledge and we're like, we need somebody that is our soulmate, our other half. And we think we find that, but we discover 15 years down the line that we didn't, because we never really discovered who we are. And at 21, 22 years old, I'm right on the border. I literally turned 22 in less than a month. I'm discovering that before I can find somebody that's right for me, I got to discover who I am that's right for me. And I will never find somebody that will compliment me until I can get that part down first. And I have an oath to do that for my future kids, because I want to be a dad at some point for sure. But what am I going to teach my kids if I don't teach myself? What am I going to teach them? We always think like being a good parent is loving your kids. I disagree. I think loving your kids is necessary to be a good parent. But I think being a good parent goes much deeper than that. Being a good parent means you took the time to work on you so that you can teach your kids how to do the same. Because if you grow up, you get pregnant and you have a kid, or you grow up, you get with somebody that doesn't make you happy, you have a kid, and you know your whole purpose is being a parent, how are you going to teach your kids to be successful? Maybe that's what success looks like to them for sure, but you're never going to get them out of the rat race. And if you want what's best for your kids, and that's what you did, you're never going to teach your kids how to do it. You can't teach someone how to do something you haven't done. You can't do it. So for me, this is my philosophy. If I want the best for my kids, I got to do by me. I got to do the best by me. If I want my kids to be a millionaire, I got to also be a millionaire. So that's why I work so hard on myself nowadays. If I want my kids to be wise and have good lessons, and if I want my kids to read books, I better be reading books. If I want them to eat their broccoli, guess who's got to eat the broccoli first? Kids follow by example. We as people follow by example. So anyway, that's a whole other tangent. But yeah, and the same applies for relationships and love, right? So if I'm trying to, because again, I am not perfect. I have so many flaws that I got to work on, and that's okay. Like, again, I'm going to watch this in 2 years and be like, I'm a totally different person now. And that's okay. Future Nick, if you're watching this, dude, good for you. I know that you did a lot of work on yourself, and I know that you've grown a lot, and you would do this whole video differently. Because that's how I look at my old videos. I thought I was so smart then. I was recording these videos, life talks, and I'm like, damn, I'm so wise, I'm so smart. I look back at them and fucking cringe now, because I'm like, dude, like, I had a whole different outlook. And I'm going to have a different outlook going forward. So I got to accept that. With that said, I have been all over the place. So I'll give you another quick story, because we're already way past our time limit, and we're just going to keep going. When I moved to Las Vegas, I was like, you know what? Let me indulge in my bad boy phase. Let me do it, right? So I had this girl flirt with me, and I gave her my number, and we started talking, right? And I knew off the bat I didn't really like her that much. I was like, I don't like her that much. But I was like, you know what? Let me prove to myself that I got game. And I know it sounds stupid. I didn't want to admit it to myself at the time, but I think that's what it was. I was like, let me prove it to myself. Spoiler, I do, but it didn't make me happy. It wasn't good. So literally we just talked for a little bit. We hooked up, and then I was like, dude, this sucks. I was like, this is bad. I was like, damn, I don't want this person or this type of person that I'm talking to anywhere near my future or my life or anything. So I stopped talking to her. I was like, this is so silly. And I've been on so many dates, I've lost track, because again, part of me still craves that. You know, I've been single for 2 years, which makes me so happy, but I've been on dates. I've been on a lot of them. And it's because the instinct part of me is like, you want to be with somebody. You want that attention. You want that nurture, that nourishment, that relationship, right? But then the brain part of me is like, motherfucker, no, you got work. You got work to do. You got to figure your career out first, which is the big thing I'm trying to do now, figure out my career. But also, I'm telling myself, you got books to read. Before you know who you want, you got to know who you are. So I'm doing the work on that. With that said, I lost my spot. With that said, I realized that love and confusion, they go hand in hand, because we tend to get confused and we don't know who we are, and we're looking for something that we think will give us a fix. So where does real love come in? And again, I might watch this in 10 years and be like, damn, dude, you were so wrong, Nikki. I might be. I'm a random dude on the internet, by the way. If you're listening to me, this is my take on it. Again, be open-minded. I might be wrong. But my philosophy towards this is we're gonna give a little break right here so I can think. I just did a minute of silence. This is the first like jump cut I've ever done in the New Vegas Talk Show. Love is for you. You got to figure out who you want to be, and you got to be willing to reject 99% of people to get there. It's the road of entrepreneurship. It's the same sort of thing, where the entrepreneur's road is a very, very lonely one. I've discovered that ever since I've been, trying to aggressively work on my career. It's very lonely. 99% of people are in your life because they've always been there, because they sat next to you in high school, because they're your parents or your family or friends of family. And that's not what's going to be good for you. And that's why 99% of people are stuck where they're at, because they keep the same cast of characters. If you don't change your cast of characters, you are your 5 closest people. And that's something I've learned from very smart people. It's called the circle of 5. The 5 most close people to you is who you are. Tell me who best quote I've ever heard. Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. Very good. And that was part of the big reason I moved out to California, was I looked at my circle of 5. I looked at my friends. I looked at my relationship, and I was like, I don't want to be this. I'm not who I want to be. So I cut almost everyone off, and I moved out to Cali. And it was very lonely because I was walking alone. Besides my sister, I was walking alone. I turned into a very different person doing that. It was a great decision. So good. And, people reach out to me sometimes and I talk to them. And then when I'm talking to them, I got to remind myself I got to keep my distance, because I don't want to be them. And if you don't want to be somebody, if you don't respect that person and look up to that person, and because you can have a mutual respect for each other, right? But if you're not looking at this person and being like, this person's who I want to be, this is my future, and you look at your friends and they're not like that, you got the wrong friends. Your friends should elevate you. They shouldn't drag you down. And if they're dragging you down, cut your friends out. I'm a full believer. People are dragging you out, cut them out of your life. It sucks. Goodbyes are hard, but they're necessary to get better. And if you don't say goodbye, you don't say hello to new beginnings. It's very simple. It's a hard fact of life. That's part of the reason I moved to Vegas, by the way. We're getting real deep. I never wanted to move to Vegas. I moved to Vegas because I knew it would be uncomfortable. I knew I didn't want to move here. And that's exactly why I moved here. And a lot of people would look at that and be like, why would you do that? It's because growth happens out of your comfort zone. Growth isn't going to happen when I'm comfortable, because I'm sitting pretty in my California home being like, I'm exactly where I want to be. Like, sure, be where you want to be. Absolutely. I'm moving back to California. I want to be there. But I didn't pass on this opportunity to come out to Vegas because I always would have wondered what if and what type of growth I would have experienced. I've experienced a lot out here. So grateful for it. Risk taking, very, very important. And to circle back to our whole relationship theme, relationships, dude, if you're not willing to reject most people, you're not going to be with anybody extraordinary. And I know, like, I gotta be a believer. I call it a hopeful romantic. You know, you have your hopeless romantics. I'm a hopeful romantic. I believe that the right person for my growth is out there. I just have to keep being the person I need to be to find them, because you attract what you are. Very, very true. If you surround yourself with the wrong types of people, with the wrong friend group, it snowballs, because then you become the wrong type of person, and then you attract the wrong type of partner. And then it's you find out 10 years later that this person isn't good for you, or you settle and you don't get good yourself. And that's rough. That's tough as shit. Again, this is just my interpretation on everything I've learned so far, on the people because I've made a point, like, I'm not some guru. I'm not like the smartest person around, but I can surround myself with those people. So what I've done over the past 2 years is I've made a lot of friends in high places, and I've taken a lot of advice from people in high places. I've read books. I'm not the most avid reader. I try to be a better reader. One book that I've been going on and off back to for the past year is How to Win Friends, Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Such a good book. It taught me the whole basis of communication. But part of what my learning has taught me is not to settle. And I believe that if I don't settle, and if I'm like, my one stipulation for marriage in my life is that I cannot doubt it for a second. I gotta know, be like, this person is going to make me my best me, 110%. If I'm like, if you have that irking, like, your gut, when it tells you something for a reason. And a lot of people ignore it, and that's how they end up in relationships like my parents had. It was awful. So listen to your gut. I'm going to listen to mine. If you don't believe me on anything I've said, that's okay. I'm a random 22-year-old kid on the internet. But what I will say is read books. Listen to people who have the results you want. If you do that, and you surround yourself with people that have the results, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in career, if you listen to these people and you start copying what they do and start becoming like them, guess what you'll start to have? You'll start to have what they have. And that's a great focal point. Like, if you want, this is a great quote I heard. If you want what most people don't have, you got to be willing to do what most people aren't willing to do. That's a tough one to live by. Easy to say, hard to live by. And since I know that who I pick to be my partner in marriage is the most important decision I will ever make, then I got to be willing to do what most people aren't willing to do. And that is stay by my motherfucking self for a long ass time. That way I can figure me out. The more I figure me out, the better. Because the more you learn, you realize, and this is the best thing ever too, the more you learn, you realize the less you know. I realize I don't know shit. I don't know fucking shit. I thought I knew a lot of shit, and now I realize I don't know shit. And that's a beautiful feeling, because when you realize you don't know shit, it's awesome, because you realize how much more there is to learn. I love learning. I think learning is cool as fuck. And we have ups and downs, but man, I got a whole bookshelf I'm ready to tear through. I'm a slow reader, but man, would I love to learn how to be a better reader. Anyway, that's my New Vegas Talk Show episode. This is by far the deepest episode I've ever done. I may never want to listen to this episode because this is way deep. I'm going to have to record my footage. So I'm sorry if something wild happened in this footage that you're watching and I didn't react to it, because the screen went black when I got to Jacobstown. So I just been talking to a black screen. So anyhow, do me a favor, hit like. Let this go in the algorithm. If you listen this far, you are a G. I love you. You're amazing. Like, I, through the screen, if I could kiss you, I would. Mwah. You're the best. Amazing. Let me know what topics, if you listen this far, you'd love to hear me touch on. I'll touch on fucking anything as long as it's not like ass. if it's ass, I'm not gonna touch it. Anyway, thank you for watching the New Vegas Talk Show. I appreciate you all a million, and you all have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.